The traditional fantasy of ultimate wealth is usually pictured as a permanent vacation, endless leisure, passive relaxation, and total comfort. But if you look closely at the modern ultra-wealthy, that fantasy has been largely abandoned. Today's billionaires are more likely to be found waking at 4 a.m. for grueling biohacking routines or pushing themselves through extreme physical exhaustion. It raises a question about psychological motivation. Why do the people with the most resources on Earth behave more like endurance athletes training for a race than an aristocracy enjoying their spoils? Human brains rely on a biological mechanism known as the hedonic treadmill. We are remarkably efficient at adapting to abundance. When someone achieves a massive spike in wealth, the dopamine surge is temporary. The brain rapidly recalibrates to the new luxury, causing the psychological response to flatline. This chart plots income against subjective well-being, illustrating the Easterlin paradox. Beyond basic survival, doubling resources doesn't double happiness. Once entering the ultra-high net worth brackets, the curve completely flattens. At this scale, billion-dollar shifts produce negligible psychological payoffs. This is an evolutionary mismatch. For millennia, human identity was forged through the friction of survival. When you completely remove that friction, you don't achieve a state of bliss. You create a psychological vacuum that the brain finds unbearable. To a successful founder, the ultimate fear isn't extinction, but extinction with insignificance. When the struggle that defined you is gone, peace feels unsafe and stability feels suspicious. To solve this friction deficit, the elite have shifted their status signaling. For centuries, the goal was to prove you didn't need to work. Today, the goal is to prove you can endure more labor than anyone else. In the late 19th century, sociologist Thorstein Veblen defined conspicuous consumption. He argued that the leisure class used wasteful, luxurious displays to assert their dominance and validate their rank. But we have entered the era of conspicuous production. Here, the act of creation itself, the work, the grind, the output, has become the primary status-oriented performance. We have seen the sanctification of labor before, often in industrial worker monuments. But modern high earners have adopted a similar reverence for the 100-hour workweek. Public exhaustion has replaced the luxury watch as the ultimate proof of human value. Because extreme comfort failed to provide lasting meaning, the elite are now re-injecting artificial friction into their lives. They are performing extreme effort simply to feel the resistance that biology requires. Now consider the second generation. You have a founder forged in the friction of scarcity, raising an heir inside a sanitized concrete zoo of abundance. Privilege acts as a cushion that removes the urgency of error. When failures carry no real cost, the biological feedback loops necessary to build capability never form. This creates identity diffusion. Heirs raised without real-world friction often struggle to build an internal structure, leading to an emotional detachment from the very wealth that insulates them. The crisis arrives when an unprepared heir is handed massive operational responsibility. Because they haven't earned their title through repetition and failure, they experience every decision as a threat to an unearned identity. When authority outweighs capability in this way, it creates a structural weakness that frequently results in the total collapse of the family enterprise by the third generation. This risk has transformed the modern family office. Once a simple hub for tax planning, these organizations have evolved into sophisticated institutions of psychological governance. Their new mandate is the enforcement of artificial scarcity. They are tasked with simulating the survival pressure that wealth naturally erases. This flowchart tracks the transition from a direct entitlement pipeline to one governed by capability. The traditional transfer is dismantled, replaced by operational checkpoints cleared before capital is released. These checkpoints ground the heir's identity and ability, neutralizing entitlement narratives. By using artificial scarcity to separate money from self-worth, surviving dynasties aren't just managing funds, they are saving the heir from the weight of the wealth itself. It is a fundamental paradox. We spend our lives trying to eliminate our struggles, only to discover that those struggles were the very architecture of our identity. Transferring raw capital is fragile, but transferring the competence to manage it creates a positive compounding effect across generations. True legacy is the deliberate cultivation of friction. Money can transfer comfort, but only calculated adversity can transfer character.